Hello, BookTube, and welcome to Weekly Reads. I've had a pretty good reading week so far. I started the week finishing off The Beauty and the Terror by Catherine Fletcher. As I said last week, this is a history of Italy from the accession of Rodrigo Borgia as Alexander VI to the papacy, to the Battle of Lepanto in 1559, I think. So roughly about a 70-year history, or give or take. Anyway, and so during the period of the Italian Wars. So what Fletcher does is using the Italian Wars, the conflict between Spain and France for hegemony on the Italian peninsula, and the Italian states' wars to maintain their autonomy and independence from either of the wannabe hegemons, to their own territorial aggrandizement, and the popes trying to get as much for their families as they can before they pass. And with sort of the other aspects of history, political, economic, cultural, it's just an amazing work. I especially like Fletcher's chapters on cultural, artistic history, as well as women in Renaissance Italy, and how women really come to the fore during this period. And I found it really striking that women in, or at least elite women in aristocratic states had more rights and more opportunity to use and enjoy power compared to their Republican counterparts. But very interesting. So yeah, really enjoyed The Beauty and the Terror. Highly recommended. The next book I read, I started on Saturday and finished on Sunday, is Thebes, The Forgotten City of Ancient Greece by Paul Cartledge. The first chapter is quite trying. I found it rather technical, stultifying, almost put me to sleep. The next few chapters are really good, particularly when Cartledge, starts talking about, or let me rephrase. Cartledge talks about the sort of the mythic city, the prehistoric, archaic city, particularly when he is engaging in literary criticism, whether the myths of Thebes or the chapter on Pindar and the usage of Thebes in Athenian tragedy. Although I do have some criticisms of Cartledge's usage of literary criticism, particularly in the Pindar and Athenian tragedy chapter. He goes on a very interesting analysis of Antigone, and then he drops it. He never concludes it. He never finishes it up. And that's a bit of a tendency in that chapter. And then also there's a final sort of little biography of a flutist that kind of comes out of nowhere. But I think the biggest problem I had with the book comes in the long end, where basically the history of Thebes becomes the Peloponnesian War, Thebes' hegemony, and Philip and Alexander leading to Thebes' destruction in 336. And there it's pretty much all the war. And Thebes basically just recedes into the background, which is a shame. And also, at the end, Cartledge makes one mind-boggling error. I mean, it is so glaring. I have no idea why he didn't catch it or why his editors didn't catch it, but it's there and it sort of colors, I think, what you get from the book. And that is, in 316, 315, Cassander reestablishes Thebes after it had been destroyed by Alexander about 20 years earlier. And Cartledge calls Cassander the son of Antigonus Monophthalmus and the founder of the Antigonid dynasty in Macedonia, and that is incorrect. I'm sorry to have said incorrect it that way, but it's wrong. Cassander was the son of Antipater, who was the regent of Macedon during Alexander's wars, and later during the wars of the successors. Cassander focused most of his attention on Macedonia and eventually conquering Macedonia and eliminating Alexander's sons and later regions. But he did not found a dynasty. His sons pretty much lost the kingdom to Antigonus Gonatas, who was the grandson of Antigonus Monophthalmus via Demetrius Polyocertes or Polyocertes. And Antigonus Gonatas founded the Antigonid dynasty, which would last until something when Macedonia was conquered by Rome. So anyway, so that kind of really colored my reactions to the book, that it's this glaring error, and it obviously set me off to where it kind of like makes me question a lot about this book. But that said, I do think I did learn more about Thebes than I did coming in. Like, I've learned more about Thebes. Not as much as I would have liked, and I think Thebes is still very much the forgotten city of ancient Greece. Because while we can see Thebes a little bit better, it is still very heavily veiled. Anyway, so that was disappointing. So next, I read over the work week Dreams of El Dorado by H.W. Brands. This is a history of the American West from the Louisiana Purchase to Teddy Roosevelt. And it's really good. So Brands starts off with the Louisiana Purchase and the Corps of Discovery, and then he moves into the fur trade, Texas, the Oregon, the California Gold Rush, and then several chapters on sort of the middle part, the railroad, the decline and fall of the Native Americans, and then he sort of continues that through the end of the book, where he ends with a part on Teddy Roosevelt. So I really enjoyed the book. It's, I mean, as a history as a popular history of the American West, I think this is really good, although maybe not terribly academic, which could be a good thing. One thing I did find that annoyed me about this book is Brands tends to go on long quotations, but he doesn't separate the quotations like you traditionally do. It's sort of in this like sort of separate blocky text. It's embedded within the main text itself, which I found a bit annoying. But on the whole, I really enjoyed Dreams of El Dorado, and I'm looking forward to reading more of Brands' stuff. This is the first book by Brands I've finished. I think I tried to read his biography of Andrew Jackson and sort of put it down, but I need to make a note to come back to Brands. because that was really good. And I really have no issue besides the sort of the formatting of long quotations. Anyway, so moving on to this weekend and the following week. The first book I plan to tackle is Maoism, A Global History by Julia Lovell. This won the Kindle Prize last year and a few other prizes, I think. And looking forward to getting to it. And also, if I manage to finish Maoism before the week is out, I'm planning on reading Iran, A Modern History by Abbas Amanat. Which this will probably take me at least a week or two, given its size. And I've been looking forward to that book, Iran, for ages too. So, given that we're now completing the end of the second week of November and going into the third, I don't know necessarily if I picked up enough nonfiction books to carry me through the month. We'll see. I mean, I'm thinking Iran will probably take me a few weeks to read, but we shall see. And if I do have some extra space, I probably will read from one of my literary criticism anthologies, because I'm kind of one to read some literary theory. Anyway, so what else have I been up to this week? I've been actually looking at some magazines to subscribe to. So far, I only subscribe to National Geographic, but I want to subscribe to more magazines, particularly bookish ones. And so I've been spending the week looking around. I started off looking at the Claremont Review of Books and New Criterion, which Peg at the History Shelf has been talking about some of her videos, and the Claremont Review of Books is, I think, too conservative for my tastes. I read 2 reviews and no. In the New Criterion, the free article I read was at best pretentious and at worst mean-spirited. It was about Agatha Christie and a long running piece on the moving finger. And I also looked at a book forum which I really liked, so I think that one is definitely a contender. The article I read I really liked, and the reviews I've read I really liked. So it's a good price, so I might pick that one up. And I also discovered I can get some of these bookish magazines on my Kindle. I was pleasantly surprised by that. So I bought an issue of the New York Times Book Review, the New York Review of Books, and the Times Literary Supplement. I quite liked what I read in the New York Times Book Review, and generally I'm thinking I would like to subscribe to that by itself, because it does have the variety of coverage that I'm looking for, and also like a larger number of books in each issue compared to a lot of the bookish magazines does. The New York Review of Books, I wish they'd covered more books in the issue I bought. It was the political one, and Steve Donahue talked about it a few days ago, and while the politics doesn't bother me. It was more, I would have liked more reviews rather than long meandering reviews that may not actually talk about the books they're supposed to be talking about. Anyway, and as for the Times Literary Supplement, do not use the Kindle. it was a mess. Just an absolute mess on the Kindle. So anyway, I'm also thinking of looking into Locus for science fiction book coverage. Although I would also like to pick up the digest, the Asimov's and Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, and maybe Analog. So anyway, BookTube, that's what I've been up to. I haven't been able to watch any Netflix. I've been spending too much time watching BookTube and YouTube in general. And this week, or coming week, I've got a few art videos to watch. Emma Colbert has a 2-part long painting I want to watch. Marla Baguetta has a weekly live stream that I want to get to, and there's a long discussion of the Booker Prize from Katie Books, and I'm blanking on the other booktuber who's in conversation with him. So I'll be watching that tonight. Anyway, BookTube, I'm starting to ramble, so I will cut it here. See you next week with at least a few tags. Hopefully I'll have something on Monday, and obviously I'll have another weekly read on Friday. So until then, BookTube, thank you, have a great weekend, and please stay safe.